You have a lot of shorts in here, and so that you have that initial panic. Hey everybody. So I want to go through a couple things here. First and foremost, tonight we're going to go through a lot of earnings and cover some ground. I want to go through a couple breakouts that you really need to be paying attention to and the strongest sector today. But before we get into that, I want to just kind of talk about Tesla and what's going on there today. So obviously we have this meeting outstanding and they're going to vote on the stock split. I mean, that's obviously front and center. They're voting on a 3-for-1 stock split. Look, if you want my opinion, if they do this, if they vote that way, the stock's probably going to go up. I take a caveat to this, just a disclaimer. I am long stock and long calls going into this, and I'm about break even on the stock and down in the calls right here. I own the 950s for tomorrow. I took a flyer, but I think it's going to work. But we'll see how that goes. But let's get into what I think is really important here. Ahead of this meeting, there is the S&P analyst that is saying that Tesla is set to shed its junk bond stigma. Now, going long term, this is much better than a stock split, right? The stock split really does nothing for the stock. But if the investment grade gets in there, then all their bond offerings are done at a different coupon, meaning a better yield. A better yield means more earnings. More earnings means the stock goes a lot higher. So why I like the idea of being long this, and I like the idea of the pop, if they do the 3-for-1, if they don't, it probably doesn't pop on something like this. But I really like this. But for tomorrow, I'm just going to give you a couple levels to watch. You can obviously see that 955 level. That's kind of where I think we're going to land first. But then second, if you can get through that, you can get up to this 1,000. You can get up to the top of that bear flag. And let's just double check that bear flag without the pre and the post on. You can see where we're at. So I really like this trade still. And it's something we've been screwing around with in the trading room for a little bit. But I think that you have to look at it and say, okay, well, what are the issues been? Well, the issues have been these wicks, right? Like they're really playing with us and they're making the trade a little bit harder. So we traded in some other things today that I think look a lot better, and we'll get into those. But I do want to go through some of these earnings real quick. If you're looking for earnings plays, I would advise you, unless you really know what you're doing, to just avoid and wait until the next day. Something could be up and absolutely crater tomorrow, and something could be down and get absolutely hammered. What I always recommend to people in the trading room is just use the first 15 minutes as a guide. Okay, just let that guide go. Now, if you want to be super aggressive, you can use the first minute, but I wouldn't use anything in between there. There's too many algorithms that know how to play with you. So that first minute shows the initial buy of all the algorithms stepping up. And then after that, you start seeing retail kind of catch up to the volume spike. And that's usually where you can get in and then kind of use that as your low to get out. But net crushed, absolutely crushed, and raised revenue. I mean, I don't know many companies that are in software right now that are raising their revenue projections. So it's going to be interesting tomorrow. But on pullbacks, I'm very interested in this. Where that level is, I'm just not really sure yet. A lot of these names are coming back to old key levels. And I'm going to show you one that's going to probably do it tomorrow that you could look at. But if you take a look at net would be on my list. Now, Square's quarter really wasn't that great. It was nowhere near as good as we saw with PayPal. But this presents an opportunity, not in my opinion, to short Square, because a lot of these stocks are really oversold and they're just bouncing even on bad news. And I'll get to a couple of those today. But you need to really watch this. It just wasn't a great report. And I don't know what he's going to do in the conference call. We're going to hear about it, but I think it presents an opportunity. And I'll walk you through the opportunity. So if you watch the live feeds that we go over in the morning, Monday through Thursday, this was a level that we gave, this 94.51. Now look at this today. Okay, we went exactly to that level, bounced, formed a reversal pattern, 1, 2, 3, reversal, kicked, and then just went. So I think tomorrow that this could sell down on Square. And if you get a fast day down, then you could see people step in and buy PayPal. And that's where I would go with this. I would be using the weakness in Square, which will take down those names in tandem, to buy PayPal. They came out and said they're going to buy $15 billion worth of their stock back. They're raising expectations a little bit. They grew at 9% in payroll. These are the things you want to see, and they executed. Besides that, you have a 9% stake in here from Elliott Management, and they're not going to sit on their hands. They're not a passive investor. They're usually an active investor. Active investors are people that get involved with the board and the management. So just something to think about there. So I would look at that. I looked at this Dash. It really ran up. Look, revenues beat. I don't know if it was because they offered discounts or packaging, but earnings were a disaster. So I'm not really sure how this conference call is going to go. I would avoid this until you see what it does tomorrow. This could absolutely be a sell the news event. I really don't think that you have to chase this one. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. If you're interested in shorting it and you watch this after hours, sometimes these after hours do move, like the Microsoft long we did last week. That $91, just get out of the way. Okay, you break 91, just get out of the way there, and then we'll go from there. In regards to some of the other names out there that moved today, I want to go through this. I can't stress enough that you probably want to start listening to these morning conference calls even later in the day. So I'll give you one that I walked through the entire trade this morning, and you can just kind of see where we were at with this. We were talking about that this morning, and then when it flipped this doji, that this could run. And I'll just show you the level that we were talking about. Let me zoom in on this so you can see what I'm talking about. So when we're on these live calls, if something live is going to be trade, I'll just call it out, and then you can do whatever you want with it, but at least you know. So wicks are what? Price rejection. So the moment that we spiked up on this news of this partnership, we got to that 90-40 level, and that marks a bottom. Now, what else could mark the bottom? See this long-legged bar here? It's not really a dragonfly, but it's this long-legged doji. 90-40. And what you're doing here is you're flipping. As soon as you did that, as soon as you flipped there, I went long the position. I was pretty vocal in the room about it. And since then, it exploded. I didn't stay in for all this. I think the rest of it I kicked out before it even got to 100. But it's a great way to start the day. What do you do with it now? Well, I think people are starting to realize that this is like a nothing burger kind of move. And I think you're probably just going to go back to flat. You have a lot of shorts in here. And so that, you have that initial panic and now you're just coming back to reality. So I do think that this could gap close and there could be $10 on the short side there. We'll see. See how it goes. You're having a really tough time breaking down. I want to go through this LABU. If you do not get the newsletter, there is a free version below in the description. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because we've been talking about this since about 4:40, and it's been in that newsletter. And the newsletter's free. There's obviously the trading room, but the newsletter's free. And the reason I'm bringing this up is right now you're at 1070. Okay? And all of these, if you got yesterday's newsletter, you got all of these levels. So you would have had 440, 690, and then 10. So you would have known today is another level. Right after we got over that 990, that 10 right here, boom. So now I'm breaking out. Why is this important? Because this is a 3x bull fund, and it's got nothing to stop it from going higher. Very, very little to stop it. If you have been trading for a long period of time, you will look at this and recognize it for what it is. So let me just walk you through a couple key things here. You're seeing the 10 point up, the 21 point up. Look how the 50 is curling now. I was a little worried when we broke the 21. It had to make a decision. It made one. So this needs to be on everybody's radar if you're not in it. I don't think it's over. I think it's becoming increasingly clear where XBI could go. You're easily going to get up to here. You at least get to the 200. There's no reason that you're not going to do that. If you flip the 200, you'll get institutional sponsorship. A lot of institutions will not buy a sector until it gets above that. And you see how it respected that line right here, bonk, bonk, bonk. So you have to look for that institutional sponsorship. Now, if you can flip that level and go, that'd be great. But 93 to 88, right? So let's just call that 10%. It's not, right? But we'll call it 8, okay? That's a 20% move just in this. That gets you to $12.5, $13 very, very easily on this. So I would not rule out this trade at all. This is the sector I would look at for sure. We should probably talk about a couple disasters. One disaster is actually up, one's down. So Twilio was just, in my opinion, just a dumpster fire. I mean, they cut revenue guidance again around 90. This is where you were. Then it made that announcement around 92 and just utterly collapsed. Now you're at 89. Just avoid this. If you ever saw this after hours, after having bad revenue guidance, it's just straight down. It very rarely does it bounce. Now you're in an oversold condition, so you are bouncing even on bad news. Like Carvania's quarter to me was just absolutely awful, and I am short this. And I'm still short it. And the stock went up on really bad news. So it just doesn't matter. You never know how they're truly going to play out. And that's what you really have to focus on. Let's wrap this up with looking at the indexes and taking a look at the Qs. and take a look at the SPYs. And I appreciate your comments and support of this channel. You know, it's my goal to educate people on what it takes to be truly successful so you can avoid some of the mistakes that I made in learning how to trade over 20 years. So I do appreciate the comments. And if you can like the video, that helps me with the algorithm. See this upper channel that we flipped? We're gone. There's no reason to not get to 330. You could always sell down, but what is going to get you down right now, right? It's going to have to be a geopolitical event like China and Taiwan. There's some other event out there that's going to have to come that we're just not seeing yet. Because what we're seeing is we're seeing demand, or the thought that demand is going to come in on the energy side. Remember, 2/3 of all GDP, right? All the earnings that are in the S&P, okay? 2/3 of it are energy related. So if energy comes down and that sector comes down and the cost of oil gets cheaper, earnings for the entire SPY go up, which means that alone will bring in fundamental buyers and change the price earnings multiple of the market, which therefore can drive us higher. Okay. Just a little quick fundamental lesson. So if you come here, right, it really should be 414 or 418, we're going to call it. Flip that, and you should be able to get up to that 433. I think you could do it. I really do. I think you could break out. I know I'm being an optimist right now, but I really feel that way. So I know we covered a lot, and I know some of it was general. Key takeaways for me that I would take away from this: look at those indexes, look at those levels I gave you. Okay, look at where the money's going. I think Goldman's upgrade today, or maintaining but raising target price on AMD, is very interesting. If you take a look at how the SOX is breaking out, you know, out of that channel after that semiconductor bill went through, you know, this is one we bought in the trading room, and here it is in the newsletter. And now we're back over that 50, and we're looking for this to really push. What I would tell you about this, and what we're really focused on, is getting in stocks for long periods of time, right? That's where you make your money, and staying in them. I trade, I'm a very active trader, but the real money that I make is on the long side, getting long and staying long, and notice how I'm managing those positions. So I would strongly suggest that you may want to take a look at this, and there's more about it in the newsletter as well. For the trading room, just click right up here in the top right, and there will be a link that will give you a preview. Everybody have a great evening, finish strong tomorrow, and trade to win.